2, 3. This is like almost our 8th class already.
Yeah.
We're going into our 3rd month here, so congratulations to everybody that has continued this journey in the Salesforce learning experiment, if you will. It's been a lot of stuff coming at you guys, and we've got some really good topics to cover today. And sorry I was out last week. I was in the middle of the mountains and I couldn't get any internet connection. But
Sorry.
here is the current schedule. We are here in the highlighted green area. Last week we had Grisel and then of course Edwin talk, and we talked through a lot of fun topics related to Service Cloud and everything like that. Today is going to be around activity management and collaboration. And we have a new instructor, Daniel Alvarez, and we'll let him introduce himself when Pedro is done speaking. But this is an important topic because, when you have the accounts and the contacts and you're doing business and stuff like that, there's always some collaboration with your teammates, and sometimes you have meetings with customers, and you have to keep track of all that. And so when we talk about activities and collaboration, it's really around, working together and having all of that data captured in a certain way. So this will be a fun experiment or experience today. Next week, we get into data management, which will be very, very fun. Trisha, I think, is on the call. She will be giving the instruction for that. And then we have one major super badge that we're going to be covering. And then towards the end of the month, we have a midterm exam. I've had a preview of it. One of a Salesforce sales engineer has created it. I think it's 25 questions, and it's really designed to get you ready for some of the way the exams are going to look. Next week, I'm going to share with you your login information for Focus on Force. Focus on Force is really, it's a different company, but it helps individuals get ready for the exams and the testing and all that. We have free licenses for each of you. And so I'll start the call next week with really sharing how you access it, how you get to it, and you can really start doing some practice exams on your own. We didn't give it to you right away because you kind of had to have some of this stuff presented to you. And frankly, it may even be a little early. I would probably recommend maybe not till April to really start getting into it, but I want to make sure you guys can log in and stuff like that. And then last but not least, on the WhatsApp channel, I'm going to be sharing the Trailhead contest that we have created, which is really going to be based off of your points, right? And how many points you have. We've got some prizes and stuff like that. As you can see, here's my Trailhead stuff. We're going to have, whoever has the most points, second place, third place, and we'll have some prizes along those lines. That will come through the WhatsApp probably tomorrow, maybe Monday. I'm trying to finalize some details there. So with that being said, I'll stop sharing, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to, I want to make sure he's still on. Pedro. Yeah, I was trying to find where there was two Pedros. Pedro, I want to make sure I pronounce your name, Tiniente. He is the Salesforce practice lead at NTT Data, which we've heard of a little bit before. I think you're based in Monterrey, which I love Monterrey because there's HEBs there and my family's from there. But I will pass it off to you, Pedro, just to kind of share your topic and your experience. And we've got a lot of our class members on and a few of our volunteers dialed in as well. And we'll pass it off to you, sir.
Great, thank you. Actually, it's all this is in English or Spanish?
So that's a good question. I should have said. So the way we have been operating is if you want to do it in English, that's perfectly fine. We've asked the students what they prefer. and most of them are preferring English. And some of this is also because of the workforce, like your company supporting English speaking customers. So if you feel more comfortable and you can get through it quicker in Spanish, that's perfectly fine too. But we usually give the folks the option with the preferred English option first, but it's okay if it's Spanish too.
Perhaps I'm okay with this.
Okay.
If you want, I can do it in English.
That's
Okay,
fine. That's
great.
perfectly fine. Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I think that I start to know about this group by David. Then I meet Hector. Uh, so I'm very pleased that to be with you today. Right now, I am the practice lead of entity data. As you may know, Salesforce is growing so fast. So many companies in Mexico and I think globally are want to know more about what they can do with Salesforce. So basically, my position right now is to lead the capability, but more I think that it's more important to let the clients what they can do with Salesforce. So I am always explaining that the the cloud, it's perhaps some years ago it was a very good topic to talk. Right now it's a very good way to move to cloud. And the most important part is that in the future, if you're not perhaps in the cloud, you're not going to be able to sustain the way that the speed that the business and the requirements are going. Okay, so for me, it's very important to have even more people. So I'm very excited to know you that you are having the basis. From what I am understanding, you are having three months in Salesforce. So that is a great thing to do. Perhaps if you want, I can explain you more about my career, so you can find out how I didn't start my career in Salesforce. Actually, I started like so many years ago in other CRM. It was Civil. Civil. It was I think that one of the initial CRMs that the industry started to recognize as a leader. Uh, I I had a lot of uh, insights about the CRM. But when I understand that the CRM is basically how it's managed more than a strategy, than more than the technology, it helped me a lot. So I think that is one of the points that I would like to share with you. The CRM, in this case, Salesforce, it's even better than that Civil. Why? Because Civil, it was like very close to be only sales, service, and marketing. But right now, Salesforce is more than that. It's more about the customer experience, and it put in the center. So, well, I'm going to return to my career. When I understand that the CRM is more about the strategy, I understand also that it was involving other technologies as well. Perhaps in my case, I started with telcos. So it was very necessary to be able to have a very good middleware. Right now, the middleware that I would like to also to tell you is that uh, in my early years, I worked with some Vitria. It was the name of the middleware. Right now, in all the revolutionary way that as a cloud, we're using MuleSoft. MuleSoft is a new application that it depends almost totally in APIs. APIs is something that it's like evolucionando, sorry, toda everything about the industry. Okay, so many of the things that I start to happen in my first years of career, it's happening the same way right now, but with totally different strategy. All things about the cloud, all things about how do you measure, perhaps in this case, the digital marketing. but it's very necessary to go to the social networks to understand what is happening. Okay, so as you can see, well, in my career, I developed like some new skills. For example, more about the business analyst than before. But when I start to see that the strategy, the technology, it seems in the same, it was in the same page. I understand that the leadership, it was very necessary. For example, when you start to having some like new challenge, right now you need to have like more like a DevOps part. What I mean is that the agile way to work, it's a very important way to do it. Why? Because many of the things that you are having right now in the projects, you need to be part of the methodology that it need to be having a lot of speed. For example, the agile way, it takes only like perhaps three weeks to have something to get in production, instead of before that it takes more than the half of year to get in production. So that is completely uh, facilitating all the things in the way of working. Okay, so perhaps when I find out that all this was happening, I start to return to some of the most important for me the companies that are having this as a way of working. For example, uh, I find out that well, I work for a company. Its name is Accenture, and they start to having a lot of things working on. For example, that is what I understand, that the Salesforce, it has a lot of clouds, marketing clouds, service clouds, marketing clouds. I find out then MuleSoft. Then I realized that it was not only Salesforce. It was also AWS and GCP, the Google Cloud Platform, in which we have a lot of interconnection between the way that we're going to develop the architectures. So right now, what I am having is not only Salesforce, I am also working with this kind of technology. So I think that for you, it's gonna be very good to have like this kind of like open mind, so you can start to fill out some new ways of understanding the cloud. Okay, so I think that will be it. So thank you very much, and keep up learning.
Great. Thank you very much, Pedro. Appreciate it. I put Pedro's information on LinkedIn in the chat window. And one thing to keep in mind is Pedro and his company are hiring all the time, and they're based in a city that's pretty close to a lot of you guys. So he's somebody that's good to know, somebody that's good to learn from. And Pedro, we appreciate your time and everything you've already given to the organization. Little golf clap is what we call it. um, but we'd love to have you back, or if you start to have ideas of how we can get some of our students involved in apprenticeships, internships, jobs like that, please reach out to David, reach out to myself. These students are going to be ready and raring to go here pretty soon. But thank you again. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Have a
Pedro.
good one. Happy Saturday. All right. So we are now going to move back into the formal instruction part of the course. Danielle, I think you are still there. I see the icon. Good morning. So I will pass it off to you. I'm not sure if you have a set of slides or you want to share your screen, but you have the full floor of what you need to do, and it's all yours.
Perfect. I have a set of slides. And before I do that, I'm just going to do a quick intro on myself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Let me turn on my camera and then just use what bandwidth I have. Okay. Really quick. There we we go. So hey everyone, my name is Daniel Alvarez, or Daniel Mayorga Alvarez. I started in Salesforce about 8 years ago. Really congrats on you guys getting up to 3 months. Salesforce is really growing very fast, just like Pedro said. It is just a growing field and there's a lot of demand for it. I also did not think I was going to do Salesforce, did not know what Salesforce was 8 years ago. So I started off not knowing anything. And I worked in more business stuff and different things. And so eventually I got brought into Salesforce and started doing it for an insurance company. And almost every company uses Salesforce in some sort of way. Different industries, different companies use Salesforce. Coca-Cola, CrowdStrike, I'm just naming a lot of different companies. They use Salesforce. So there's a lot of jobs, a lot of good stuff happening, which is what I want to go and point out. Throughout my 8 years of working in Salesforce, I've done a lot of admin, a lot of developer, project management. There's a lot of things you can do as well with Salesforce. So never feel you are stuck. But overall, I just wanted to kind of introduce myself first, and then just wanted to kind of give you guys a good congrats pat on the back for going 3 months, keeping with it, and we'll jump into this instruction, okay? Cool. Okay, let me share my screen here. Okay. And there we go. Okay, do you all see my screen? It's wait, it's starting to present.
Coming up, yeah. Now we can see it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Let's get into it. Okay, so session 8. We are going to talk about activity management and collaboration, brought to, of course, yours truly. And what we will go over here in the agenda, so chatter, collaboration, we'll go over what is chatter, how do we use it, how is it used within Salesforce, and then I have different features or ways to use chatter. So chatter on records, the groups, streams, and then I'm giving some tips about how to admin chatter, what you will see once you enter the admin world. Second, we'll go over the second module, which is that Lightning Experience Productivity module. And that module mainly goes over how Salesforce is used. I will definitely go over that, highlight some experience on that. Then we'll go into the activity timeline, very activity oriented and focused. We'll go into the activity standard object and wrap up with the easy part, which is the searching. Very quick, a quick win point. Okay. Okay, so first slide. What is chatter and why? So chatter is how Salesforce users talk to each other and communicate within Salesforce. I call it the Facebook of Salesforce, pretty much. If you have used Facebook Cara Libro, then you guys will know how to use chatter. This is probably the easiest exercise that you guys have done. I checked out some of the past classes, and I'm sure everything else was hard, but I do want to say chatter is simple and very easy to pick up, but it's important to pick up because you want to know how your users talk to each other, how they communicate, and just be able to know how your Salesforce users are using Salesforce and chatter. There are 2 main key ways to use chatter, or that I've seen use chatter, which are really important to know. And as students, you want to go in and try using chatter in these ways, just to know how your Salesforce users will also use chatter. You can chat on a record, so you can find a record, find a contact, or find a lead, and you can chat on that record and leave your comments, leave your posts. You can tag another coworker and say, hey, I want to talk about this account. What's going on here? And the second way, which is more like using Facebook, is you can use what is called a chatter group. I will go into examples for both, so we'll see it on my screen in my org. But it's important to know that Chatter is really deep in Salesforce and you can use it in different ways. Why, bringing back the why use Chatter? Because what a Salesforce user could do is they could just go out, close Salesforce and go to their email and then email their coworker. But why close out Salesforce? Why not work all in Salesforce? And that's what Chatter does. Chatter keeps the conversation and everyone using Salesforce. It keeps all the information too in Salesforce. So if you need to share a record or something of the sort to your coworker, then you can send it and it will still be attached to that record. And so that's very important to know. You can leave history of what you said, of what you talked about in Salesforce using Chatter. Okay. Let me go to my next slide. And this is now getting into regarding the 2 key ways of using Chatter on a record. This is that first one. So using Chatter on a record, you'll see on my slide here, I have it circled here, an example. I am on a contact, Mr. Hugo, and I am leaving a comment. And you'll see, just like Facebook, what I'm doing here is I'm tagging someone. This supervisor approver is another user. And I'm tagging that person saying, hey, have you talked to this contact already? And this is what Salesforce users do. They will go to a contact, they will go to an opportunity or go to another information or record in Salesforce, and they will use Chatter in this way. You learned in last week's session about the standard accounts, or standard objects, sorry. So the lead, the account, the contact, the opportunity. And just as a refresher, kind of knowing what a lead is. A lead is a prospect. An account, of course, is your actual customer. And these type of records and these objects are important to know because this is what you'll be chatting on. So if someone calls in, let's say a contact, a customer calls in, you want to try finding that contact. You want to find Hugo. If Hugo calls in, you find Hugo, and you will be able to see the account, see that information, and you can go to that record. And that's like that's exactly why you just want to kind of be very familiar with your objects and where Chatter will happen. Just know that in this first key way, Chatter can be done on records. Okay. Okay. Before I get into my second point on how Chatter is used secondly in groups, it's important to know that Chatter can be used on standard objects. Let me go switch to my first screen. Lead, account, contact, opportunity. It can also be used on your custom objects. And I know you learned in your last session about custom objects where you can create your own custom object. And that custom object can be something that the business wants to use. It'll be an invoice, it'll be a project or something of the sort. You as an admin sometimes will be asked, well, we want to use Chatter on this object, on this custom object. So an admin, you have to enable it. You have to turn it on. And so I have steps here. And actually, I can show that as well when we go into demo. And of course, I will also share these slides afterwards. I'll send them on out. But it is important to know, as an admin, these are a few of the things that you end up doing around Chatter. You have to go into setup and settings and turn on Chatter for certain custom objects. So Chatter does dig into not only standard, but also custom objects that you will build. Okay. Oops, let me go back. Using Chatter on a record. Okay, so kind of like I had mentioned, you can chat with another user on the record. I showed an example of that. And a common way that people do this example screenshot, like I mentioned, is on the standard object called lead. And I have a lead here, and I am checking in with someone else, which again, same user, supervisor approver, and saying, hey, what is the status of this? I'm just doing so in an org. Let me go into, close out of my slideshow really quick. I'm going to log in to my Salesforce. Okay, and I want to show Chatter in action. I have a lot of orgs. Okay. There we go. Okay, do you all still see my screen? I will take that as a yes. Awesome. Okay, perfect. So this is Chatter in action. You'll see that I have Chatter on my lead. If I were to go to contact, let's go into a contact. Same one, Hugo. I also have it on here. Okay, and so let's say I want to, I put in this 16 hours ago. I put in a comment, hey, who is this lead? I just left a comment. It works just like Salesforce, really, or I want to say it's the Facebook of Salesforce, where you can tag someone, say, hey, what's up? You can get a comment. So very, very simple, very easy. Use it to talk about records, about information in Salesforce, and just kind of very, very simple and different sorts. Let me go back to my slide here. And I want to go into groups now. Okay, so let me share on groups, and then we'll go into that secondly. Okay, so the second way that we talked about using Chatter is using it in groups. And groups really are the more like Facebook, because in Chatter, chatting on a record, you're commenting, you are leaving that note for your coworker, you're reaching out. But Chatter groups is kind of like having your specific page, your specific chat room, and your specific group just to have conversation and engagement and collaboration on something or someone. I have two screenshots, two examples here of two different groups I created in my org. One for billing. And so you can create a group that is for a business team. So, and this will happen sometimes. There will be a team that is fully on just billing, and they may say, hey, we need to collaborate. We need a space to just talk, and Chatter works great. We keep chatting on records, but we want our own page, and we don't even want it public. We can do it private. We don't want the rest of the company to see it. You can do that with a group. And that is a common request that I've seen before. Different groups, different business teams will ask for a space and a group to talk on Salesforce. And so that's great. That's absolutely amazing. What's also great with groups is you can share records within a group. So going back, if you still want to chat on a record, you can do that, but you can also share a record on a group. So you can have a team group that is for billing, and it can be full your coworkers. And what you can do is share one record and say to your coworkers, hey, has anyone checked up on this record? And so we'll take a look at that here as well. But that is important to know. Groups, Chatter groups, act very much like chat rooms. You can create them for professional reasons. I created one for Star Wars, but very simple to create, very easy. Okay. More on Chatter groups. Okay. So some things to know about these groups that you will create is you can edit and set the notification settings for your groups, okay? You don't want to get pinged all the time. You don't want to get emailed and notified all the time, or maybe you do. So you can manage those notifications in the group, and that's good to know. Going back to a group or a team wanting a Chatter group, you can have a group email. So if you do need to email something and have all of the group be aware of it, you can email that group. So groups come with that email, which is actually really great. Okay. So with that being said, let me jump back out of my slides and then into my Salesforce again. And let me go into my group. Okay.
And if you don't mind, David, I'm just going to put like an example that happened in a real world situation.
Yeah.
Like where I used to work at Dell for a long time, and we had implemented Chatter in 2009. And David's talking about these groups, and there would be these big groups of sales people, like all the sellers selling and all that. And the executives would be in there as well. And so when a big deal was sold or something was done that was pretty exciting, Michael Dell or some of these other leaders would mention them, call them out, say thank you. So there's a way for also leadership to interact with a lot of other employees that is beyond just email, and their peers can kind of see them getting praise. And so obviously there's some working elements to this about how to post, against an object, but it's also a good way just to make it a little bit more informal, to call people out and give them praise, or to get work done more efficiently. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Thanks, David.
Definitely. No, thank you. Yeah, exactly what was said. Chatter is used just like that to create that communication, create that collaboration also between workers, which you want. You want everyone to communicate, to talk, and to work together very well. So in this example, like I said, I have one set up here, very easy. I'm just gonna throw something in here really quick. But with Chatter, you can do your normal commenting posts. You can take a poll. So if you need to ask a question and outline what the answers are, you need something that needs to be voted on. That's also really good with getting consensus, getting decisions. And of course, post your typical question, which is always good. So groups, like I said, just like mentioned, can be used informal, formally, for many different reasons. And it does cultivate that good collaboration, which we want at the end of the day. Okay. With that, let me jump into my slides here. Okay. So more on Chatter. So there is something called Chatter streams. We talked about chatting on a record. We talked about Chatter groups. And the third thing that Chatter also is able to do in Salesforce is around Chatter streams. Streams are very like groups. If Chatter groups are like Facebook, I think Chatter streams are like Instagram. And the way I say that is because you follow people. You control the stream. A stream is for the person. It is for the individual person, and they can create what they want to see. So a Chatter stream is for you and the user. You set up your stream, and the user will decide what they follow, what they see, what they want to be notified about. You can go to each one of your coworkers and you can follow each one of them. And then on this stream, on your Chatter stream, you'll see all activity that your coworkers do. You can follow a record. And instead of always going back to that record every day and saying, what's going on with this record? You can just follow it in a stream as well. And I'll be going into quick where that resides in Salesforce as well here. Okay. Before I check out that record and hop back into my Salesforce, remember Chatter streams also have notification management. So if you think something is very important and you want a stream for only important things, you can do that. You can create more than one stream. You can set up one stream, Chatter stream, and follow the most important records you need to follow and the most important people. And you can create a second stream that is, you can call it less important, and have notifications to less notifications. You don't want to get pinged every single time. So with that, let me jump back into my Salesforce really quick. I will show that Chatter stream. Okay. Let me bring this on. Okay. So here I have one that's important to me. I'm only following, I believe, a record here, but I can edit and I can add more. I can add another account, other records I want to follow, and then from there, manage my notifications. If I don't want it, of course, I can delete it, but I can also create more if needed. So this is on the Chatter page. When I click on Chatter, I look at my left, and I see the different groups that have been created and the streams. Okay. With that, let me jump back into my next slide. Okay. And to wrap up a bit around Chatter, these are admin things that I think may or may not come, and you may have to be aware of. Chatter is something that is not enabled by default. Is not always turned on a Salesforce org. So if you are playing about with Chatter in your own org, your own sandbox for practice, just know you have to enable it. And so it's under setup, and you can just type in Chatter. It'll come up right away under setup. Things you may have to do is set up groups. People will go to you and say, hey, we want a public, we want a private group. We want to make sure that we have our own group. So that's always good. Admins, as an admin, remember, if you create a custom object, or such as an invoice or a payment or anything different, any custom object for custom records, you will have to enable Chatter on that. So that's always good to know as well. And then, of course, lastly, what I put in here is people who can use, anyone who uses Salesforce and has a Salesforce user license can use Chatter. Sometimes, though, you may or may not get asked to by a user who doesn't use Salesforce that they want to use Chatter. They say, hey, I work for this company, but I don't use Salesforce, but I would like to be in the Chatter group. You can do that, actually. There is a Chatter-free license, and it's just good to know that you may not have a Salesforce user for them, but you can make them a Chatter-free only user. So that's always good to keep in your back pocket. Okay. Perfect. With that, before I dive into this second half, are there any questions over Chatter? We went over, just as a recap, chatting on records, groups. I'm just flipping through here, and streams and collaboration. Like I said, it's a lot of collaboration around there.
Hola, Daniel. Buenos días.
Hola, buenos días.
¿Hay algún, no sé si lo mencionó, es que nomás no estoy al 100, pero ¿hay algún límite de, como que se llene de capacidad de, por tanto, ¿cómo se dice? O sea, si hay algún límite de capacidad de cuántos posts puedes hacer o cosas así, ¿no?
No hay límite. Es buena pregunta. There is not a limit. So question, is there a limit around chat posts? There is not. You can use Chatter as much as you want, and the history and all that history will remain there as well. So very good question.
Oh, gracias.
Perfect. Okay. No, awesome. Thank you for that question. Okay. With that, we will go into the second half here. And this module this exercise you guys did is the Lightning Experience Productivity. I bet you it was probably the easiest module you guys have done in these 3 months. I know it was easy. I just looked through it myself. Very simple things. The module goes over a lot of how Salesforce is used by sales reps. So how the search works. We've all used Google. It's very easy. We've creating activities. There isn't too much to it, but I still want to step through it and go into the ins and outs, and of course, attaching files. But I want to highlight about the importance about this module is it's very important because as a Salesforce admin, You want to know how your Salesforce users use Salesforce, how they are working inside Salesforce. You as an admin won't create a lot of activities, but your users will. And so they will ask you questions. They will say, hey, how is this, what activity can I create? And you may have to create different types of customize, like different fields on the activity. So what I would definitely urge with this module is play around with both Chatter and just creating tasks, sending emails. It's probably a very simple exercise, but just kind of mimic or copy what a user, what your sales reps, the people you support would do. Very important. And I just wanted to go ahead and highlight that. Okay. Okay. So Salesforce is growing, and it ultimately really helps salespeople do their job. There are different clouds, but I'm going to focus on the primary thing that Salesforce does, which is help sales, help our business, and to do their job, okay? It holds a lot of customer information. It holds accounts. It holds the opportunities. It holds the contacts. So it is the primary thing. What a sales rep will do is sometimes they get a call, and following this flow here, they will receive a call and they turn right away to Salesforce and they say, hey, you know what? Let's search who is calling in Salesforce. They'll find that contact. They'll know everything they need to know. They'll say, hey, what was sold? What do they have? What are we selling to them? Because this person is calling me for a reason. And I deal with 50 people every day, and I don't know that reason, but let me check in Salesforce and find out that reason. Why are they calling? And then they take action. And they take action by doing many different things. They can create an activity. They can log a call, but they keep the information in Salesforce. Because remember, a customer is calling with a reason. And so at the end of the day, there will be an output. There will be data that comes from that call. And that sales rep, the people that you support, will end up putting, if they're good sales reps, hopefully, and use Salesforce, they will put in that information in Salesforce and keep it all in there. Okay, so this is where activities come in. This is where that standard object activities really come in. How do salespeople take action? Looking back at that flow, we see that they search Salesforce, they find the information, then they take action. How do they take action? What do they have to do? On a contact, if Mr. Hugo calls, they can create a task. And of course, Mr. Hugo called, so we may want to log a call. If we need to ask for advice or ask another coworker, they can flip to Chatter and talk on Chatter and say, hey, someone else, coworker, what is this record about? They just called. And then that history is left on the record. So common activities, when I say activity, I think of what falls under activity are tasks, events, and this action, okay? So going again, activities will be created by the users that you support. They aren't really created by you, but it is important to know how they are created, how they use it, just because, again, you will be supporting that. An activity is a standard object, but an event and a task are activities. I do want to point that out as well. Okay. And so I just want you to be a bit familiar. You don't have to memorize all this, and I don't want you to, but do play around, create a task, create an event. An event will be more of a time blocked period, like on a calendar, and a task is a to-do. So you can leave a quick checklist specific for a task if it's very easy to remind you in the future. Or if someone calls you as a sales rep and it is in 1 month, there is something that you need to do that will take a few hours, you want to create an event. Okay, so activities are very powerful and very used by the salespeople using Salesforce. And you want them to use activity. You want them to use it as much as possible, which is really good. Okay, if they're using activities, then they are using Salesforce right. Activity being done on a record. This is very similar to Chatter. So activity will be left on, when you create an activity record, a task or anything, it will be left on that contact, on that record. And just like what was asked, how many activities can you create? Is there a limit? And no, there's no limit on how many activities you can create on a record. That's the beautiful thing about Salesforce, is that data all stays in Salesforce for, I don't want to say forever, but to the end of time. But there is no limit on the amount of activities you can log. And so you want to tell your reps, create these activities, use Chatter as much as possible. Create your reminders for yourself. Definitely do as much as possible. And so with that, I have a screenshot here of the activities being left or history, but I want to hop into the record one last time into my Salesforce. And I would like to show it here. We had Hugo up and interact with it here. Okay. So I have a few different activities which I logged. There we go. I was playing around with this last night, so do not judge me. But what I do want to point out here is if I want to create a new event, and let's say a meeting, and it is at a certain time. Everything is connected in Salesforce. So the cool thing is I just set up a meeting here. And the important thing between task and event. So remember, I said task, it's a to-do thing. You put something, a call, or what you have to do, a checklist, and you put the due date. An event is a block of time. And when you create an event, you also have it connect to your calendar in Salesforce. There's a calendar in Salesforce. And so this is kind of cool. The events you create will end up syncing with your calendar. So just a cool thing to know, and also a good way to know the difference remember the difference between event and new task. Logging a call is very straightforward. Hugo calls me, I am the sales rep, and then I leave comments on why they called. And then email, of course, like I said, why leave Salesforce and go to Gmail when you can just email straight out of here? So you are on the phone with a rep, and you can just send everything out quick and very easy. So very, very good experience, okay? Okay, with that, so let me go back here and jump back into my slides. Okay, we did events. Okay, on the activity. So we talked about the activity a lot. I do want to go back and remember to remind you, the activity is a standard object. And as an admin, you may be asked to add more fields to it. I have a screenshot here. Remember, and this will be a bit hard to remember sometimes, keep going back, or it takes a little bit to get used to. But in Salesforce, you work with objects. And so this activity, when you create an activity, you are creating a record on this. And so if you need to create a field, work with this object at all, then you can navigate to it. You can find it here on the object manager. You can do so, okay? So that's always good to know as an admin. This object manager, this object finder will be your friend. You will, if you need to find a contact and they want an extra field on the contact, you go to this object manager, you go to the contact and you add that field. I won't get into that, but let's keep it back to activities. But remember, you can customize activities and work off of that standard object. Okay. I think that's what I had on activity. I have one last slide, which is I'm including it just because this module makes me hit it. It's really over searching. And I think it's very quick and easy. I know how searching works. I hope that you have all used Google. I have a quick tailored example here on my slide of searching. The only thing with searching that I want you to know is they can either search all of Salesforce, or they can search just specific objects, specific records, such as accounts. So that's always good to know. Okay, but with that, are there any questions? That brings me to the very end of my slides. And I think I ended this a little bit early. Forgive me, guys. But any questions I can help answer? That was a really good one around Chatter.
Preguntas.
I have one. Can I assign who sees the activities and the events?
Yes, yes, you can. So there's, and I want to say yes and no. Very good question. Very good question. And let me go into that. So activities, if they can see that contact, if your activities are on a contact, then if they can see that contact, then they can see those activities. If they cannot see that contact, then they cannot see those activities. And that's the way viewing works with activities. It works in standard way. The easiest way to explain this is I would say whatever the activity is on, and if they can see that record, then they can view it. And you can control who sees contacts, who sees accounts, who sees those other standard objects. There is a way to open up and do very, let's say they can't see that contact, but they want to see the activities. That's going into, I would say, custom development. that goes into like more very customized. It's not a very common use case. But what I want to say there is Salesforce can be manipulated, and this is the reason why it's growing so fast, is that you can create something called sharing rules, and it can be manipulated to open up permissions. I would definitely, if you have questions over it, I can actually send out a link on it. But to answer your question, going back to the very first question, you can view the activities if you can see the record. If you need to see activities on something that you can't even see the record on, then that's where it gets very tricky. And you will have to use either coding or different configuration or different ways to open that up. I don't recommend it, but for the most part, the way activities works is if you can see the record, you see the activities. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. I hope I answered that all right. Oh gosh. Okay, no, awesome. Any other questions?
Let me, I'm going to share something,
Yeah.
David, real quick on my screen. Let's see. I like this presentation because it like every day I have to be in Chatter. So
yeah,
this is my company, right? I'm not going to share anything too personal with my company, but like in Chatter, you can see like we're rolling out Lightning, right? And we have a Lex feedback group. This is a group where we want our people to give us feedback on what they're experiencing in Lightning, right? And so the end users get to, add information, about, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? So this is a collaboration, not just like on an account or an opportunity, but this group is specifically for some new features we put out there. And it ends up being very helpful for things that you wouldn't normally think of. And from a Chatter perspective, it has kind of its own app. So like you can obviously set up your profile, and I can see activity that I had to be on. My team owns support, like they own technical support for Salesforce. So, one of my employees is saying, hey, can you do research on this? And they copy me because, I need to know about what's going on. And so there's so many different use cases. So the way Daniel taught it is very important. It's critical, but and that's the way it should be taught. But there are use cases that I can't even think of. They just continue to come up. And so I encourage you to play around with it in the environments that you have, the test environments, and just kind of get used to it. Some companies like it. Some companies, frankly, don't like it. The other part, and this is not important for any exams or anything, but if you just look a little further, maybe 2 or 3 years, Salesforce bought Slack. Right. And Slack is a big thing right now. If you know Slack, it's another tool. It's a collaboration tool. They bought them for a lot of money. The deal is not officially closed, but I can see how Chatter and Slack may overlap a little bit. So there could be actually more collaboration, richer collaboration with Slack being embedded within Salesforce. But that's a little bit in the future, nothing to worry about now, but something to put the context together about where the technology companies are kind of, getting closer to together, so to speak. Any other questions on Chatter, on collaboration? I think some of the questions you guys asked were really good, but I wanted to make sure I put some context to it all.
Daniel, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, it was great being with you guys. Like I said, happy 3 months. Keep at it, and good luck. I'm sure
sure. And thank you, Daniel. Anytime you want to come back, or you want to there's other things. I'll add you to the Slack channel. We have a WhatsApp channel, obviously. Please, let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Definitely. But thank you. Awesome. So I know we have office hours now, and Trisha's on the call. I don't know if we want to dive into other areas, but obviously we have a lot of time. We ended a little early, so we can dive into other areas of the platform. If some of the other homework modules were difficult, we can cover that. There is a lot of trails you guys have had given to you, so it's okay if some of them were hard. I know I would have struggled. So I'll open it up to any topics you want to talk about.
All right, we're gonna have to call you out. Come on, Aranza, any questions? Celeste? Joanna?
Wendy?
Yaz?
Hector? Oh, wait, that's me.
Perez?
David?
Any questions, Joanna?
Oh, no.
Okay, do we want to move? Do we have office hour questions, or are we?
That's what this was. We already moved to it.
That was it.
Yeah. So by the time we get started, either maybe midweek, certainly before class next time, I'm going to go through each of your Trailhead accounts. I have all of your profiles. And I'm going to see how things are progressing, how far you've gotten along, and where maybe some of the modules are a little behind. This also aligns to the Trailhead contest we're going to have. So if you're a little behind, the expectation is to reach out to your coach, reach out to us, because it's going to be important to stay ahead, and we're here to help. I don't think I have anything else. Trisha, do you have anything you want to say? I know you've been on the call.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if there's anything for office hours, if you don't feel comfortable maybe asking in the large group, feel free to send something in WhatsApp, and we can do a separate Google Meet. I've got all morning kind of blocked out, so more than happy to help you guys with whatever you're working on individually.
Thank you, Trisha.
And Danielle, did you say where you worked and what your role is?
Yes, I didn't. No, I work. I can talk a little bit about that.
I think that'd be good. Everybody likes to hear, kind of the journeys here.
Yeah,
that's my mentor. Just so you guys, my mentor.
He's your mentor. Oh, that explains a lot. No, I'm kidding.
No. So I like I mentioned, I've been in Salesforce for a good while. And I started off as a developer, and I did an admin. So I did admin and developer. And what I can't do with admin, that's where you have to use developer. But let's not go there yet. I did a lot of adminning for a few years, and then I became a consultant. And I did consulting for about 4 years. And I helped very big companies, small companies. You see it all. You see companies of 50 users using Salesforce, and you see companies of 200 or 2,000 users. And so I would help design the system, help with the integrations, making sure that Salesforce talked with all the other systems. And at the end, once we have Salesforce set up, I would help with the training of making sure all of these people come together and use Salesforce the way we want them to use it. I now recently, as of this past year, I now work as a Salesforce lead in a company called CrowdStrike. They do a lot of information security. So they are a software company. And that's very funny because a software company uses another software such as Salesforce to run their full business. So the tool is very popular and it's used all over. The company is based out of California, CrowdStrike. I have been with them for about half a year now. And I help lead a team of, I would say, a few developers and a few admins. I will definitely share if there's any openings that we have. I think we have openings later this year. We don't have them open currently, but I definitely, we do love to kind of grow our talent. But for the most part, I currently today, I oversee our Salesforce that is currently already running, and I try to make it better. I work a lot with what Pedro Teniente said, and when he first started, he said Salesforce has many clouds and many versions. And so I also use a lot of those different versions. I help use something called a CPQ, which is kind of like another add-on in quoting. We won't go into that, but just know that Salesforce is very big. There are a lot of different products around Salesforce. And so you'll definitely have questions. I have questions every day. What's being taught to you guys here is probably very foundational, and it's very good. You want a very solid, strong foundation on what Salesforce and Sales Cloud does and how they use it, because there are so many other modules, so many other packages that come with Salesforce, and it's only growing. And so that's kind of where now I've gotten into this other space of working with these other packages, and gotten not only Sales and Service Cloud, which I think Service Cloud is being taught here as well a little bit, but also other clouds as well around legal, around quoting, and all that good stuff. Yeah. I hope that was a good overview.
It was. I didn't know your background, so that was helpful.
Yeah. Oh, and good friends with Trisha. Yes, I wouldn't call myself the mentor, but Trisha and I are really good friends.
Give us some dirt on Daniel.
No, he's been really great. There's a lot of times that, and I laugh because this happened with Juana. I'll send him a message and like, I can't figure this out, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm struggling, I'm hitting a wall, esto no funciona. And then like an hour later, I'm like, never mind, I figured it out. So sometimes just talking through things helps.
Yeah, I have, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that was it. Just say like, you know, it's funny. Sometimes just knowing that there's somebody there that can help you and talking it through and saying it out loud will help you figure out the answer, you know?
Yeah. I would agree. There have been times where even when I was doing some technical stuff, I tell this to my junior people on my team, I need you to go struggle a little bit and go find everything that don't come to me like after you just don't like. I need you to have gone through a journey of trying first, because in that trying, you may not get to the answer, but it may share with you other information that later becomes really valuable. And so part of the struggle is actually part of the journey, because the experience that's built on kind of putting the solution together is just as critical as actually the solution, because next time it may take you, instead of 3 days to solve, maybe 2, maybe 1. And I see this every day with my senior admins. They can solve it in a couple of hours, and my very new ones, it takes 3 days. But I know my new ones next year at this time, it's going to be maybe a half a day, right? And that's just human nature. So when you're going through all of this, just remember that it's a journey. It's not like a sprint, so to speak. The other thing I'd say is the way, Daniel and Trisha have kind of, they have that banter back and forth. There's that everywhere, right? Everywhere in the Salesforce community, there are people that are willing to help you. And we've said this almost every class, that whether it's Salesforce Saturday, whether it's the coaches on this call, Martine's joined almost every call, Barbara joins a lot of calls. We're here to help lift you guys up. And so please don't think you're going on this journey by yourself. A lot of us have been on this journey, and all we're doing is giving you the playbook. And you just, have to run the plays, as I like to say. But that's all. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk through, I don't want to stay on if there's nothing else we need to go through. And by the way, Roberto gets married next week.
Woo woo.
Yeah, so we'll have to maybe put a spy video in his wedding and check it out live camera or something.
No, I don't think so.
No, I'm talking about the wedding, not anything else. But anyways, happy Saturday. Thank you guys for your time. Daniel, Trisha, thank you so much. Martin, thank you for joining. And the rest of you guys, go study. You have time now.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See you.